Welcome back to the Best Ball Happy Hour here at 4for4 Football. As always, I'm your host, John Daigle, joined up first today. You know him as Underdog's own Hayden Winks. When do you leave for New York for Josh Norris's wedding?
That will be Thursday. It's a red eye.
I'm
still looking for brunch places in Brooklyn or Manhattan if anyone has any idea.
You're talking to the
Pat,
also Pat Kerrane, last year's Best Ball Mania 3 winner, of course. More importantly, though, more than $2 million. He's known for brunch places around Brooklyn.
I do know Brooklyn pretty well. Yeah, we should talk. Are you looking to you're hosting something, or you're just like
me and my wife? We're going. We land at JFK at 9. We want to go straight to breakfast.
Oh, all right. I'll see if any place comes to mind as we're going here.
He, of course, is Kerrane from Legendary Upside. Not so much Brooklyn and New York, and then also Chris G, winner of 2 years ago playoff best ball competition there at Underdog, and fresh off a plane from New Zealand and Australia. Chris, how's it going?
Doing good. Just a little jet lag, but happy to be here, guys. Let's get some best ball going here.
All right. I'm joined the lobby. I think you both have joined the lobby now. Let me do this. As we ideally...
am I supposed to join? I haven't joined yet.
Please join right now.
Best Ball Mania?
Yes.
Yeah, 3 left.
Right.
Chris was yelling in the private chat.
Underdog thinks I'm in Ohio every time I don't have my Wi-Fi on. Hayden, can you fix that?
Yeah, let me fix it right now. I'm coding as we speak.
1 left. Here we go.
All right, I'm in.
Nice.
Turn my Wi-Fi on, and now I'm not in Ohio anymore.
Let me make sure it said I was in, but then it messed up on me. Hold on. Pretty sure I'm in.
Chris is in. I see Chris.
Do you see Daigle in there?
I see Eric Bime4.
Do you see Daigle?
Eric's in here.
I don't see Daigle. I see Eric Bime4. I think you might have to swap out for Eric.
Yeah, invite him on. Daigle, you're out of here.
All right. Bime4, if you're listening, get in this right now. I joined and then it told me I couldn't join. What was that?
This Bime4 got your spot.
The Bime4 snipe.
Did Bime4 snipe my spot? All right. Well, let's get Bime4 in here. Let's make it a party. Kerrane, present your screen to me.
Oh, I'm drafting on my phone.
Chris, present your screen to me. I'm actually going to DM Bime4 real quick. We'll just make it one giant party as Hayden and I commentate like the old men from the Muppets.
I was watching that poker stream last night, which was amazing. And I got to figure out a way for me to commentate over like a live draft, like really high stakes live draft. We got to see if we can figure out a way to make a poker stream like that viable. Something I'm trying to manage.
What was that? You guys see that one?
Yeah, the Hustler live with the freaking $3 million pots going back and forth is amazing.
Okay, DM sent to Bime4. Chris, you're already a great host. You have it on the board before your pick. This is wonderful. I can just sit back today. I got white wine today. You can sit back and relax.
That's good, man. So, yeah, man, took a little Jamar Chase, standard 102. Gives you a lot of optionality at the back end of the draft. A couple running backs, maybe Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, like Pat got this morning with Pete.
How many drafts are you in right now, Kerrane?
Like slows that I'm in?
Just how many into it are you for BBM4?
Oh, I think I have like a dozen done in BBM.
Okay.
Let me see. Yeah, I have exactly 12 done in BBM. I've been kind of doing the other stuff. I like the Chow Chow. Good tournament. Mm-hmm. Good tournament. Been doing the Bulldogs. And so, yeah, some of Bulldogs only slows. No thanks. But here I am. I am doing them. So I'm like, if I'm doing the slows, that's like scratching the itch a little bit. So I haven't done quite as many of the BBMs. And I kind of like saving my BBM tickets here a little bit. I don't know that like the ADP doesn't feel like it's going to be that much like worse than a month from now. And we might know like some actual stuff a month from now or even 2 months from now. Like I think we're kind of in a holding pattern as far outside of a couple things. The Hopkins can shake things up a little bit, but I don't know. I feel like I'm probably better off just like waiting another 4 weeks for most of my early kind of drafts.
Interesting. Okay, because I figured you would think that right now, like last year at this time, is when we have an ADP edge. I agree. There's a lot of ambiguity in a ton of situations and backfields right now, but also like last year. Remember, we learned a lot more actually in OTAs than we did training camp. Last year, I think training camp all it did was give us negative opinions as we overanalyzed like first team reps on limited reps as well. So yeah, I'm still actually in favor of doing a lot of drafting right now.
No, I'm fine with if you want to draft right now, I think it's totally fine. I just your point about OTAs, like, that does give us a little bit of information, but I don't know if it'll be as covered. So if you're grinding the news a little bit more, maybe you get more of an edge from kind of like right now, like I just like literally don't know a bunch of stuff. And like I don't know that I'm gonna be making good decisions as a result in
that's fair because actually right before the stream I was kind of thinking to myself, I was like, what have I missed in OTAs? And Paulson and I covered it on today's pod, but even then it was just like 5 headlines. There wasn't much actually yet. So I don't know, that's because we still have 2 more full weeks, like the last OTA wraps up on June 15th, so we are still fresh into it, or if it's because we are getting less coverage. Hayden, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, Kerrane left the Roto World blurb, so we're down a person to write these things. That's one issue.
Blame
perhaps. Yeah,
they're still getting done.
They're
backfilling.
They're getting done. Yeah, no, I trust the Roto World guys. Yeah, I haven't noticed that much either. I think that we're probably just getting better at not completely going nuts with the OTA news as well. Where like one little thing 5 years ago would have went absolutely nuts. I think right now we're a little bit better, and I think also all the stuff's kind of, or not, I shouldn't say all of it, but a lot of the rookie stuff's already priced in. Like rookie price tags are way up right now. So there's, even with some positive news, the ADPs can only climb so much.
Quarterbacks are somewhat falling.
I think some can climb a lot more.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, certainly. Yeah. There's still room.
I noticed a little bit, like when I came back from my trip, I was like, oh man, people are getting third round Jalen Hurts, third round Josh Allen. And it's been really awesome to see, So I'm excited for that. I think I'm just going to go with the standard bet here, but I think I'm going to take Ramondre first because that's who I want out of the running backs. And I think T will come back to me. If he doesn't, I'll just double up on the running back position and I'll go from there and have a little slight edge. So he goes, no big deal. And I'll probably take, let's see here. You know what? Forget it. I'm doing it. Josh Allen, Ramondre Stevenson, week 17. Let's go.
There you go.
Was there any thought process between like Josh Allen being slightly more stackable than Jalen Hurts, given your spot between that? Because I think I slightly rank Hurts ahead of Josh Allen, but I would have done the same thing as you did.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, Devontae and AJ Brown are already off the board, and it's like basically you can get 6th round Dallas Goedert, which is really great. But at the same time, there's already people getting, because like in my previous drafts before I got on here a couple of days ago, I had Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, and CMC already, like twice. So the top tier quarterbacks are slipping into the beginning of the 3rd round, which is giving people like Pat who are waiting probably a significant edge on the people who have drafted already. So it's pretty smart.
Although I did go in, I got broken down early in Best Ball Mania, and I did take some early quarterbacks. The big board, I kind of sat it out. I don't have a lot of those early quarterbacks in the big board. And now it's kind of like, am I just not going to have any early quarterbacks this year? So that I did mix in some Hurts, Mahomes, and Allen. I have all 3, I think, in Best Ball Mania.
It's interesting this team in the 3rd spot went Devonta Smith before Jalen Hurts, which would have been one of the first times that we've seen that. And I think the reason why is he's daring one of the teams in the 1st or 2nd spot to draft an uncorrelated
That's
Jalen
the way
Hurts.
to do it.
Right.
That's the way you should play it. I think you take
100%.
the receiver and then you go. I do this with DJ Moore and Justin Fields. Now it doesn't work a lot. People will take naked Justin Fields, and he's one of the guys that makes sense to take naked if you're going to do it. But it has worked, and when it works, it's so sweet. You take DJ Moore, and you're like, come back around, you get him. It's great. Burrow. I mean, you should be definitely doing that with Burrow if you're the chase drafter, and Higgins goes before your guy, and you don't have the Higgins 1-1 situation. Yeah, I think that's the way to play it.
On that same note, though, Hayden, isn't a CMC and Jalen Hurts stack combo pretty popular right now. It's like we talked about last week, how, you start AJ Brown at the end of the first, like Bimeford did here, the 9th spot, and then you don't grab Jalen Hurts. You differ off AJ Brown, since it's common to go Jalen Hurts then in that spot.
What's going to end up happening is, since most of the drafts are going to be backloaded for BBM, I'm expecting Jalen Hurts' ADP to stay around this like 21, 20-ish range.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually going to be unique to actually draft Jalen Hurts with the AJ Brown team now that their ADPs have gone off path. And we think about it like, it's since like more drafts happen in August and September, just because there was 10% of the teams were able to stack those two together frequently does not mean that's going to be the case later on. So actually, the Josh Allen, Steph Diggs, and the Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown teams, because you're going to be reaching by 10 spots, are actually going to be a little bit more unique than what we thought was going to be the case early on.
Huh. There's also the thing where you're getting a running back in a lot of cases in that third round who's probably not available like in August in that spot. I mean, I think we all agree that these running backs will probably move up. So like AJ Brown, Hurts, Jacobs is not going to be that's not a combo that anyone will have access to in August, probably.
Yeah, I think it's the guys like Olave, Waddle, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Those guys I think are going to drop 3 to 5 spots probably by the end. Once we get some more casuals. I'm not sure if everyone's going to be as excited to draft like Olave 16th overall as the people drafting today.
I'm excited to draft Olave 16th overall. Give me Olave.
I didn't even realize that was the Tyler Hero top shot in your background, Chris.
Cool cats, bro. Cool cats, brother. Gotta rep it.
Is that the one where he snarls?
Yeah, no, I don't think it is. I think it's the cool cat one. I don't think it's the snarl one. But yeah, it's hilarious, man. I just look at that every day and go, man, that was a fun time.
What a time to be alive.
It was a fun time, and that time has passed, but I'm glad you're still represented.
Yeah, I got all my stuff, man. I'm super happy right now with sports. Heat basketball, Florida Panthers hockey, I'm in. I'm psyched. I just wish Dallas made it so I could go to a game.
Okay, Chris, you're coming up on the clock here. You already have the correlation and a strong QB start with Josh Allen and Ramondre and Jamar Chase. What are you thinking right now?
I'm thinking Gibbs because he's a value, but obviously he goes. So I have a tough time here because most of the time I pass on Drake London for someone a little more stable like Terry McLaurin. And it allows me to set up with a tight end option I like as well. So I'm probably going to go Terry here and see what C-Ball here at the 1 spot does. It's pretty controversial. Most people take Drake, but I just don't know if there's going to be enough pass volume with Desmond Ridder still. So.
I don't think there's anything controversial about taking Terry. Terry's good.
He also started C-Ball started 5 receivers in a row in the first 5 rounds.
Man after my own heart, honestly. Going George Kittle here for the elite tight end upside. Per Pat's legendary upside article. Why not? Got to get it going.
Kerrane is a little bit biased towards Kittle, but yes.
Hey man, Kittle was on the Drafters winning championship. I don't think that gets enough credit here. Not Kelsey.
To be fair,
weeks.
That's what I say though. I say yes. You have to get a little bit lucky. The tournaments are too large now. It's just like the World Series of Poker. You have to get a little bit lucky. And Debo getting injured and Kittle's target share leaping
really lucky
from 17% to 24%. But at the same time, the structure was sound. You still had elite tight end and 2 tight end build last year. So
it helps to draft good players generally,
Yeah.
And Kittle is an incredibly talented player.
And you didn't have to worry about the postseason. We, of course, didn't score any touchdowns at all because Debo was back.
Those weeks don't count.
Didn't happen. Who cares?
Didn't happen. I don't even
check
first
the bank
time
account.
hearing of it.
All right, Kerrane. Where do you? Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to joke around like, hey man, we even missed a Monday Night Football game. I mean, that definitely changed a couple of things. And let me tell you, I was pissed off a lot about it, but I was so happy for Pat when he clutched that up. So salty. Right
Not
here.
happy at all. Kerrane, what are you thinking now with your pick coming back? Wide receiver, running back start.
Yeah, I was hoping that Breece Hall would get to me with the last pick. I love Breece Hall in the late 3rd round. I think it's just a bet weighted to the upside that we don't really get very often. He got sniped, so then I took Deebo Samuel to get my second wide receiver. Glad I did because the guy out of the 12 hole going 0 running back. He took Amari Cooper, so then I took Travis Etienne. So I'm already feeling uncomfortable with my wide receivers, even though I have 2. I don't like what's happening right now. But Bijan at 11, I mean, that's pretty fun. Bijan, Etienne, Debo, and Devontae. That'll be a rare combo.
I got Bijan at 10 this morning. That's only a 2 draft sample, but I wonder if something's happening in the first 10 or 11 picks. Maybe Eckler getting closer, receivers moving up, where it is suddenly pushing Bijan down from 7 overall.
Yeah, I guess if you want a running back and maybe there's like not that many people in the first round who like really, really want a running back. You have another option now with Eckler. I have no idea what I'm going to do with this pick. I got to figure that out.
Yeah, I've noticed Eckler going a lot earlier now that, hey, he's reporting to camp. He's already gone up like 3 or 4 spots, I think. And it just makes it awesome for all the people who got second round Austin Eckler with AJ Brown.
I guess I'm going hyper fragile now. What is happening?
I love this. I love to see this.
This is great, man. Kenneth Walker's an awesome pick at the end of the 5th.
This was the idea, was to see 3 different strategies, except you get bomb 4s instead of mine, since he stole my last spot.
I actually like what Kerrane's doing here. I do think with the wide receiver price tags going up, you still like need good wide receivers, but I don't think you need as many good wide receivers as the history would show, just because we were getting those as values. This year you're paying the actual price for them. So I think you can get in there, get your 4 or 5 decent ones, and then still be fine and kind of scoop up some of the running back values based off the projection. So to me, I think Kenneth Walker is a better bet just in general than Michael Pittman. So I think this is kind of the way to play it with the new ADPs. I kind of half agree. Like, I don't like what has happened to me. This isn't, I'm not having a good time.
But what I like to go 2, and then I will go away and I'll get like maybe an elite quarterback or an elite tight end. I've cited your golden rule a bunch of times, Hayden, the 4 wide receivers through 7 rounds. I think that's like absolutely critical this year because the wide receiver prices have gone up. I think maybe counterintuitively that makes getting the 4 wide receivers through 7 more important because you can't make up for it later. You know, if you don't get the wide receivers in the range where the wide receivers are pretty good bets to be productive contributors for your team, like you aren't finding them in the rest of the draft because everyone's hitting it real hard early. So I think you get 3 detours. I've already made all 3 of mine. And that's tough because now if a running back falls to like the end of the 7th round, that I think is an amazing value, I basically have to pass. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to look at it. I view it the same way. You have 3 non-wide receiver picks in like the first 8 rounds. I like to spend them mostly on an elite quarterback and then whatever running back values I like. But I think in previous years, you could have gone 5 to 6 wide receivers in the first 8 rounds, like very comfortably because just the way that the projections worked out. I think that's a little bit harder to do this year because of the environment.
I do too.
I like just going to get my 4 and then just say, all right, these 4 got to hit. And that's kind of how we always play it with like the elite quarterback or elite tight ends, or like with the elite running backs, is you're assuming that they smash. We historically haven't done that with the wide receivers. We're just like, give me more. I think this year you have to play these 4. These are my guys. These guys have to be the guys that you needed this year. And I got to get away from it just to go back to the quarterbacks or running backs.
If I am in a position though, like the 101 did C-Ball here, where he now has
awesome.
6 wide receivers and Justin Herbert to stack those wide receivers, I'm done drafting wide receivers. I'm going my 6 strong and then stacking the rest of my roster, thinking that I have 6 strong ones to run with.
Yeah, I think you have to.
I still tack on 7 in that.
You still like 7?
Situation. Okay. But I'll do it late. Like I think it kind of, and honestly, if you wanted to go like 17th round, you know, Robert Woods, and 18th round, you know, whatever, you know, Tutu Atwell, something like, I think that's fine. I think it's fine to do 8, but like you're spending $1 on each of those guys. Like you're done spending real capital at the position. I completely agree about that.
Sure. It's a real shame this guy didn't pick up Keenan Allen in the 5th over here and get Justin Herbert on the way back. Like, he's got 5 great wide receivers, an elite quarterback, in my opinion, with new Kellen Moore offensive coordinator. and he's got the rookie. So now he basically is locked in, though, to Gerald Everett and probably Joshua Palmer at the end. We'll see. And let's see if anyone gives it to him. That's going to be the interesting thing.
What? I mean, Herbert, that was what, 72nd overall?
72. Yeah, it's amazing.
That's as deep as I've seen him yet.
I was about to say, I think that's actually like a pretty rare build is what he has going on right now from the 101.
Yeah, so like to me, this would be the classic thing where I would go dip into that Kirk Cousins or Geno Smith tier and go like 2 decent quarterbacks, and I would correlate that pick, and then you just like view the Justin Herbert thing as like, okay, based off of the projections, this was just too good of a pick. It sucks that it doesn't have any correlation, but if Keenan Allen, Mike Williams each have 14 fantasy points, and Herbert still can be a top 3 quarterback on that week, I still think there is a needle to thread as long as you correlate it with your QB2.
As Kerrane is definitely looking to correlate Geno, not right now, but a little later on with Kenneth Walker and Tyler Lockett.
Ooh, nice pick. There we go.
I need to make up for these lack wide receiver points somehow.
I like what Kerrane does here too, because whenever I have Anthony Richardson as my quarterback 1, or if I have anyone kind of in this tier, I like to double tap it, because I think a lot of people don't like going back-to-back quarterbacks, something like that. So going with like Brandon Cooks, you can set up the Dak Prescott. I'm not sure how many people are going to be stacking Richardson with Prescott, and also Geno Smith is right there too. So I don't like punting quarterback at all. That's like the one thing I like really do not like, is going 3 like late round quarterbacks. If I'm going to miss on the elite quarterbacks, I want 2 of this Geno Smith up to Anthony Richardson tier, basically no matter what.
Yeah, one of the things I wrote about last year is like if you're going 3 quarterbacks and you can figure out a way to do it, it is better if you can get 3 guys who all have a ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sean Siegel's written about, trying to get your quarterbacks in the quarterback window, and the quarterback window is kind of shifting as ADP shifts, but the premise is like only some of these guys really have any kind of weekly ceiling at all. And if you're gonna not have the best versions of those guys, getting 3 who all have a weekly ceiling is really great. And sometimes you'll get that. Like I've had drafts where, Aaron Rodgers will fall and I'll get him as my quarterback 3. Like to me, that's an ideal quarterback 3. Like it's still within that range of guys. Obviously I'll tack on a Stroud or whatever if I get boxed into that, but I prefer not to be reliant on those guys if I can avoid it.
Speaking of that window, Geno Smith is probably the most undervalued quarterback right now, right? Considering like 116 ADP, where he goes behind Tua and Kirk Cousins consistently, even though everyone's like rushing for everyone else in the offense and letting Geno slide. It just seems like he's the most valuable right now.
Man, the wide receiver room it's awful. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Geno after I pick. Daniel Jones is pretty interesting.
Okay.
I think because you can't stack him.
Yeah.
It's like harder to take him, but I think he's got a pretty high ceiling. Second year in the system, like someone was playing wide receiver for him. You can stack him with Waller. I don't mind drafting Waller in the 7th at all.
I think I always end up with Jalen Hyatt, not actually having confidence in Jalen Hyatt, just that if there were a format to draft him, it would certainly be best ball where I don't have to choose when to start him.
I took Jalen Hyatt in a Bulldog the other day. I don't like the price on him at all. Like,
no,
shouldn't he
144
fall?
Is rough.
He was like a projected potential first-round pick, and then he went in the 3rd round, and the best ball market was like, cool, I see no need to adjust. Why? Why not?
To me, it's hard. It takes longer for players to fall than it does to rise, because just auto draft. So like, it could just be a really slow burn for like, all right, every single day is just one spot lower, and like maybe by training camp we'll finally be at a spot where it's more justifiable.
Yeah, but I did mix him in the other day. I'm going to be underweight in this period, but I don't want to like full. Obviously, he was stacked with Daniel Jones, which was why I did it. But
as someone who is drafting a lot of the Rams offense in many different ways right now as well, it does naturally always get me back to the Giants for that week 17 correlation. So that's why I keep squeezing in these ancillary Giants players, whether it's Daniel Jones or not.
Who are you taking there?
With the Giants or Rams?
Yeah, Giants.
Johnson would be Darren Waller above all else, just because his ADP, I understand the health issue, but his ADP isn't consistent compared to like the other options around him. Like Kyle Pitts and TJ Hawkinson haven't shown a ceiling whatsoever, whereas like Darren Waller has, and yet Waller is still going after all of these guys. I even like Dallas Goedert, but Waller's still going significantly behind him. So yeah, to me, Waller is the easiest one to grab, and just cross your fingers he's healthy.
Yeah,
Hayden and I talked about this on the Underdog YouTube feed today. I don't know when that video will be out, but like last year's league high or position high depth of target, 14.5 yards. That's not happening with the Giants. Like Brian Dable's so much smarter than Josh McDaniel in terms of how to use Darren Waller.
That's an interesting week 17 stacking game because there's so few options inside the top 100 picks that there's nothing to like pull up the stacks, like last year, the classic example with the Broncos and Chiefs, like there were so many Broncos and Chiefs off the board. Like everybody was just pulling those guys up. With some of these games, like the Rams, it's just basically Cooper Kupp and then nobody else really after that. So I like it.
I really love taking Daniel Jones here as well because, like you said, those ancillary pieces of the Giants. Like I really love Darius Slayton. I think you can even get on board with Paris Campbell. I mean, last round Slayton just feels so safe because, as Sam Sherman pointed out the other day, he's probably like the only X receiver I believe it was, and the rest of them got a bunch of slot. And you're getting him in the last round every time. Easy correlation for your Ram stacks. So.
And now behind the scenes, the man who sniped
my
12th entry in this draft, and then asked why I was sending him a DM with a link. None other than Spike Week's own Eric Beinfor. So Beinfor, you get to just break down your draft since you took mine.
Yeah, I had no idea what was going on. I just get a StreamYard link from Daigle, and I'm in full panic mode. Like, dude, did we book something and I totally forgot? Like, I felt like
he just sent you the link. You can't do that to people, man. I would literally be like, "Oh no!"
It's the joke. I'm fixing his remote, and then the hospital blows up, and I'm walking away. That's it.
It's just a dead StreamYard link from like last week.
Yeah, I was in full panic mode. Like, I'm so sorry. Did I miss this? Whatever. And he's like, "No, you're just in this draft with us." But I was in funny enough, I was recording something for Spike Week to like do like a little like tools demo or what. I had zero idea that you guys were doing this. So it was kind of funny. I'm literally like, doing the corporate thing, and Daigle sending me StreamYard links in the background. So,
another good part of that is that, as we all know, like shows always start at the half or top of the hour, and so the fact that I sent you the link 13 minutes after the hour makes you panic even more.
That's what I was saying, man. That really it. You're like, dude, I'm 13 minutes late to this thing.
Yes.
And you're like,
Daigle, tell me.
I know that feeling very well. Yes.
And when did I agree to a stream at 6 Eastern?
Exactly.
Like, that's insane.
All right, Beinfor. So go ahead and tell us how you think your draft is going right now, since you are apparently recording a video on it too.
This is like one of my dream drafts. It's falling together very, very nicely. I don't actually love taking J.K. Dobbins with Lamar, but it kind of happens a little more frequently than maybe I would even like. But those wide receivers, Bateman specifically, but Bateman and Zay with Lamar is like a priority target for me. And then it just so happened, Waddle kind of fell to me. And then getting an elite tight end, and then I'm getting just going to smash all my 0 RB bros, all my Pennies, Harris. I thought about
that range.
That's my favorite part of the draft. I don't care about those first 9 rounds. Get me to like round 10 where all those juicy running backs are. So yeah, I'm enjoying this one.
Bateman's seems like one of the most obvious locks to climb up in ADP. We're gonna get
totally
Zay Flowers is only in the slot and blah blah blah, and like just Bateman's gonna be the wide receiver one.
Zay is also going only 3 spots, I believe, ahead of Bateman right now. So it's happening. It's 100% going to happen soon.
I was following ADP on that in my rankings, and I flipped it earlier today, where I was we need to be taking Bateman first because that's where things are headed.
Sure. Yeah.
And Pat, just like looking at like our models and all that stuff, Bateman was like, in my model at least, was a much better prospect than Zay was. Like multiple tiers above. So it hasn't like proven true because of injuries, but
yeah. He was good. He was good last year. People act like it doesn't count that he was efficient and good and actually like kind of an interesting deep threat, which I didn't really think that's what he would be, but I don't think that's the only thing he can be, but I like that he flashed that skill. You know, he wasn't running a full slate of routes, which I still am perplexed by, and I don't think is a good sign. But
I don't think he was
awesome
physical
when he was
enough
on the
to
field.
block. But I'm not sure.
Is that what it is, you think?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if Zay or Odell are either. You know, like they had, like they were running like, oh, who was it? Who's their dusty
DeMarcus
outside?
Robinson?
Yes, DeMarcus
Yeah.
Robinson was their physical blocking type.
Well, he must be doing something well.
It's also new. Monken over the old regime, I think, is going to be a big difference. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chris, how are you thinking now at the beginning of the draft? I saw Jonathan Mingo was just your wide receiver 6.
So I took a dusty old Juju Smith-Schuster, and I figured, let me balance this out with some upside here. Let me get Jonathan Mingo. I'm also trying to shoot for maybe a secondary quarterback since I took an elite quarterback and an elite tight end. My secondary pieces of those onesie positions are probably going to be later in the draft. So I'm trying to open myself up for a late quarterback 2 to go with my elite quarterback 1.
Okay. Kerrane, where are you at the end now?
Well, one thing that's tough is like if you don't do a certain build a lot, then it's like tough to know like where you stand in it. So I'm kind of like normally I might consider reaching for Roshan or doing Jamal Williams, but I'm like already spent all my bullets at wide receiver, or at running back. So I'm gonna grab Nico Collins here, who I think is like a solid. That's a reach, but
I like Nico.
He's going higher, man. Every time he goes above ADP in the past couple drafts.
I really don't like this wide receiver range that much, and so I find myself reaching for Nico as well.
I don't blame you too much either, Kerrane. This one was definitely a wide receiver heavier draft. There's pretty much an avalanche in the first 3 rounds, and then when it got back to you, you realized, that one pivot you had was, that's definitely going to screw me over.
Yeah, I mean, I took my running backs at a value. Not Travis Etienne. I mean, I guess I could have reached. I actually considered reaching for Mike Williams there, and then as it turns out, would have gotten a pretty good value on Herbert. Not as good as the guy who took him got. But that was probably like my sliding doors moment in this draft. But I get correlated Alec Pierce here. That's a little something. So I think I dug that okay.
Bonfor, I know you do as many drafts as all of us, if not more. What are some early edges you're seeing in Best Ball Mania right now?
So the people don't like to hear it, but I actually wrote a way too long of a piece yesterday because I've been thinking a lot about the exact question that you asked, and I just think that I went through a kind of a projections process over the last, honestly, few weeks, and we're all really enamored with some of these early running backs, but mainly like those second and early third round guys. And they're awesome. Like when I put out even like my own rankings, I have to like back off how high Tony Pollard, right, and Ramondre and all those guys are. But the difference is that the running back value exists throughout the entire draft. Really, I kind of like to call it like maybe Antonio Gibson. Beyond him, there's some running backs I really like, but I think through like the 11th round or so, somewhere in that range, the running backs are like always the best pick on the board. So it's not just that Pollard's better than the wide receivers there. It's every single running back is always better through like 12 rounds. And so I'm just going to kind of lean into that when no one else is going to utilize, right? So like I have Joe Mixon as like a top 20 running back, like approaching like definitely top 15 or whatever. And he goes way later. So like he's just as good of a value, probably more so than say a Tony Pollard is. I know he doesn't have that upside, but like I want to lean into the fact that Mixon's undervalued and I think Penny's undervalued and Damian Harris is undervalued. And like if all these 10th round guys are undervalued and I can't get any wide receiver, like I don't even like the wide receivers in round 4. So like if I don't like wide receiver really quickly, I'm willing to reach a little bit on what would be Devonta or Olave or T or something, and then be able to soak up the value of those running backs kind of in the middle rounds, at least right now. I think that's probably going to change later in the summer, but right now I'm willing to kind of embrace a little bit of the fact that for 3 months I'm going to be probably a little underweight Ramondre and Pollard and all that, and hopefully that I can make that back up later.
Mixon definitely seems like the one we're talking about in a month, saying I wish I would have got like 4th and 5th round Joe Mixon. I don't quite understand why he isn't increasing in ADP much faster, given that it's all done. Like we're past this idea of him being off the team, and there is still absolutely no competition behind him. Just a bunch of special teamers and
Well, he could still get suspended, right?
I don't think so. Oh, can he? Okay, I thought that was pretty much done.
I don't think that's going to happen. But I mean,
It's
Kamara
They introduced the case, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
We saw Kamara punch somebody in the face, and that went to the next year. We haven't seen a whole lot here.
I'll
And I
send,
think
I'll
the
send a
Bengals-
DM to Drew Davenport. Let's just go ahead and burn this thing down.
Well, I think the Bengals
Yeah.
probably would have done a little bit more, and like that.
Agreed.
To me, the Saints were like ready. They were obviously prepared this offseason for it with Kamara.
Yeah,
I think
the
that's
core
the thing.
process the core process takes years. There's going to be continuance after continuance.
I'm literally searching
discovery,
Drew Davenport
exhibits.
right now.
don't
He's
warn
going to
him.
play this season.
We
He's
should
gonna
all
play
send him
this
a
season.
DM at the same exact time with a StreamYard link.
I
Just
just
really tilt him.
I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
literally
Daigle.
searching his.
Just send the blank StreamYard link, no description, no nothing.
what do you think I did? Do you think I'm gonna write a description? No.
That's got to be the new randomizer wheel. Like you have to send like Matthew Berry just a StreamYard link.
Oh my god. All right, we'll see if we can get him on to talk Joe Mixon. But I just did my rankings on the site, and yeah, he was by far he's my RB 13. But again, the rankings are different than where we're drafting him since he is so late. So like actually, the CSV I create for everyone and update it pretty much every 24 hours nowadays. I do have Mixon still pulled back because I want to be ahead, but you don't want to be like Hayden always says, like you don't want to be 12 spots ahead. You just want to be slightly ahead. So that's where I'm
It's
at right now.
It's funny you said that because I just finalized and posted our projections. And so we didn't do like season long projections. We did like a weekly projection to try to, right? Best ball is like really a weekly game. The season long thing is not unimportant, but like whether you run for 1,100 yards or 950 yards, like that will really influence where you rank in a season-long cumulative projection, but it may not always influence like what your weekly projection can be, especially with contingent value. And there's just so many moving parts, right? So we tried to do a weekly projection, and you mentioned Joe Mixon, RB13. He is the RB13 from a weekly projection for me, and he goes RB20 or 19. So yeah, like I mean, he's like maybe even multiple rounds too cheap, and like I'm trying to be cautious. I don't like Joe Mixon, the football player, but I can't back it off anymore. He's just underpriced.
Yeah, I would go out of my way. Mixon and Madison for the next week.
Madison's
until
another
something
one.
happens. Like just those two to me are just so obvious. And for like going back to what you were saying, I think in previous seasons I was trying to get like 5 decent wide receivers or 6 decent wide receivers to fill my flex spot to some degree. This year, because the wide receiver prices are up and like the projections, like the running back right next to the wide receiver, I like the running back projection more. Now I'm kind of thinking, give me 4 decent wide receivers to fill my 3 wide receiver spots.
Right.
And I'm actually going to be trying to fill my flex spot with more running backs than I'm accustomed to. So it's just a weird kind of thing. So I'm with you. Like in the first round, I want the first round wide receivers to set up the rest of the running backs in round 2 to like round 10.
And you get flexibility. Still, like you know me, I'm a wide receiver guy. I'll draft 7 of them in a row. Like I'm that's how it used to be because they used to be a lot of the times the best pick. Now it's like you said, they're not the best pick. Maybe beyond the top 5. And so once you move into that, then you can create flexibility later in the draft. Right? Like maybe you need backdoor stacks. Maybe you need to add on to game stacks. Maybe you need to add on to your rate. There's just having, 2 or 3 extra wide receiver bullets for later is like a good way to take advantage of the market, but also keep your flexibility in your draft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't really have much flexibility right now. Like I've just been ripping off wide receivers in a range of the draft that's not very good to take wide receivers. And I'm just like, you got a job. Come on down, or with Marvin Mims, I'm like, at this point, I feel like what I lack is maybe some late season upside. So I grabbed Marvin Mims, and figured I'd get one of Van Jefferson or Rondale Moore coming back, who are you got a job guys, and I got more. So, but I mean, I'm like, there's like no correlation on my team outside of I got a single stack with Anthony Richardson, no bring back. I got Geno stacked with Kenneth Walker and Tyler Lockett, no bring back. And like, there's no mini correlations or anything going on. I'm just like, because I can't focus on that. I'm just like, I need a receiver. I need you to play football. These guys play football. You're on my team.
That's the thing that we've talked about. Like you're balancing all these things every time you come on the clock. And when you get locked out of a position, like the correlation, none of that stuff matters anymore. You just got to like like you said, I need juice and upside. So I need Mims, or I need a body, right? I need Chris talked about it. Like I just took Juju because like, dude, I need a body that's out there running routes. And like, that's not wrong, but like, you don't want to be in that position where you're like, oh my God, I just need a dude who could please score some kind of points.
Yeah. It's not great.
I do like some of the late round wide receivers this year relative to some of the other years because those price tags haven't gone up like the rest of them. It's just like the early guys are going a little bit earlier. And since with the quarterbacks are going earlier than ever, before you were drafting the wide receivers and then tacking on the quarterback correlation. This year, there's a lot of quarterbacks where you're drafting the quarterback first and then you're drafting some of the correlation after. Like the perfect example was Richardson with Alec Pierce, and there's a couple other options like with the Texans, for example. You can get Stroud, and then you can find Woods or somebody else like that too. So I think it's a little bit more viable to kind of tack on a couple dusty wide receivers that probably only going to give you 2 spiked weeks, but I think that's kind of what I'm going to be aiming for this year.
What are some of those values, Hayden, at wide receiver? You say you like tacking on late.
I like Chase Claypool. I'm actually writing a column that sounds terrible, like this year's Zay Jones, and it's like Michael Gallup. It's just a bunch of guys that are like paid well that I know are going to be out there and starting. But a lot of the times for me, it really just comes down to the team correlation. Van Jefferson is one because I draft a lot of Matthew Stafford. The Rams stack is a little bit harder now because literally Stafford, Jefferson, and Higbee are now going like right next to each other. But that's been like one of my favorites kind of back. And then the pick a Patriots guy. There's a couple of teams.
I think that's why I keep ending up accidentally with Hunter Henry and Allen Robinson, because I keep drafting Bills and and Seahawks. And it's like, well, I guess I'll correlate these guys to week 17, whatever.
I haven't heard a single person tout this year's Zay Jones did not include Allen Robinson. There was
spoiler alert.
At the contract, I said, no, sir, we're putting other names.
Oh my God. What about Robert Woods? He's someone I've kind of come around.
What about Robert Woods? You can't make fun of Allen Robinson then tout Robert Woods.
I'll tout Robert Woods if I want to tout Robert Woods.
Please do not.
USC.
I know you will, Pat. I'm well aware. We spent a long time, way too much time talking about Robert Woods really recently.
Oh, another name I'm seeing right here.
I got sniped on Michael Mayer, which is something I didn't think I'd have to say.
Just quickly, the other name that I've kind of been drafting this week has been Hunter Renfrow. I think he's going to get traded. I saw a couple reports. I think it was Joel Corey, who was like an ex-NFL agent. He was looking at that contract as one of them that could get moved. And it's only up from there. You know, he's paid pretty well.
Dude, Jacoby Myers is still like one of the more interesting ones too, to pay all that money. And like, I don't even know how he gets targets at all. Like what a disaster situation in Las Vegas.
Hey, what do you guys think about Jimmy Garoppolo a little bit? Just curious, what do you think? Is his injury that serious? Obviously, they didn't give him the guaranteed signing bonus, but is there a real concern for the start of the season? Have you guys been keeping up on that?
Yeah, I think there's like legit risk, but I think the most likely scenario is he's going to be fine. But like, this is just like another classic thing with Jimmy G, and the Raiders didn't prepare for a worst case scenario. That's like the big downside risk. Like if Brian Hoyer, like that is outrageous. Like I guess,
or Aiden O'Connell, whichever one it is. I mean, like when I rack my brain and think about the worst quarterback performances I've seen in the last 5 years, it's Ian Book and Brian Hoyer, the first two that come to mind. What a disaster, man.
Classic.
I believe it was Jason Fitzgerald from Over the Cap had an article on the Jimmy Garoppolo thing, and it really made me feel like the recent thing with it was just basically overblown. Yeah, and like he's like, it's part of the contract. It's been part of the contract. It's not, and it wasn't added. Like it's basically, you know,
we just didn't know, right? It wasn't like they didn't make it public, so it
we
seems
just didn't
bigger
know
than
it
is. Yeah,
yeah. So it's been in the thing, and like, yeah, like he had foot surgery. He's gonna have to recover from foot surgery. If he doesn't, that sucks, and it's gonna hurt. You know, if you drafted him, but I don't think there's really much there after I read that article. And I was kind of like I was lowering dudes in my ranks. I was like, oh no. So they call me down.
It feels like I'm sure you guys watched The Last Dance, you know, during especially during the COVID or whatever, when Scottie Pippen was pissed about, you know, his whole contract situation. I'm not saying Jimmy was was mad about his contract, but like why didn't he get surgery like right away? Like, what are you doing?
That's classic Jimmy, though.
That's what Jimmy does.
Yeah, the Roto World podcast, Denny and Rotopat were crushing Jimmy. Was killing me the other day. Just like how like he is trying to do anything to not play, but to get paid.
Also, the Last Dance among pandemic viewing holds up. Tiger King was absolutely just a circumstance thing.
Really?
No one would care about Tiger King at all if it weren't for the pandemic and us having nothing else to watch.
Did you rewatch Tiger King?
No, but I know
Oh.
I can just remember, and I know for sure.
I will say I watched season 2 of Tiger King, which wasn't during the pandemic. Wasn't that great? So,
Yeah.
I think you might be right about that.
I'm actually still shocked. Like Brian does amazing work. I'm still shocked every time I see an Overzet stream on League of Legends go live. It's like, bro, like you started at that pandemic because you were bored, and he's still doing it 3 years later every week. Amazing. All right, Kerrane, your pick. Actually, let's start with you, Eric. Your pick is coming up. What are you looking at tacking on here in the last couple rounds?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out my second quarterback. I only have Lamar. I have a couple options for kind of some secondary stacks, and I'm trying to figure that out and then think about what my 18th round pick will be. I'm probably leaning to Mac Jones here with a little Mac Jones, Tyquan, Damian Harris, which I probably have way, way, way too much. Like no one should have this many Mac Jones, Tyquan, Damian Harris.
It's so
stacks,
easy though.
So
Oh
easy.
yeah.
Hunter Henry,
It's
too.
so-
Like they always go in 16th or 18th round, so you could just tack them all on.
So that's probably what I'm going to do. But I was also looking at, I have Kyle Pitts, obviously. So my quarterback to Ritter would make some sense. And then I could tack on a Bear, a Tyler Scott or a Chase Claypool. But I just feel a little more cozy with Mac and on this. But I don't really think there's a right or wrong. But I definitely had to do something with those late quarterbacks and then an 18th round pick that fit with that 17th round guy.
Eric, what do you think about like a third quarterback on these type of ones, like two late ones? Like that's like the one thing where I'm still so confused about the correlation is like Mac Jones correlation in a single week actually matter because is he going to actually be a 1 out of 16 type of player? But maybe Ritter is the type that actually could do that. But I know I like the quarterbacks for the regular season this late versus like these absolute dust ball wide receivers.
Yeah, that's definitely the tough. I think that's the toughest part actually is figuring out does Mac Jones to Tyquan Thornton like really matter? Like does like from a week 17 perspective, like should I ever when I have Lamar Jackson on this team, if I'm not using Lamar Jackson in the fantasy playoffs,
it's not a good
like
sign.
it's probably not going well for me. And so am I really breaking ties with that pick? And I don't really think that I should. And so I don't know. I actually don't have a great answer to that, and that's probably the thing that I'm struggling with the most so far. Like I feel reasonably confident about a lot of the other correlations and decision tree type stuff, but like you get back here and you drafted Lamar Jackson, like like you said, I think Ritter has like it's very thin, but the upside case from a runner with those weapons or whatever is probably a little bit better than Mac Jones. And so how do you weigh? Like, are you really going to win this thing with? I have a Baltimore like monster stack and an onslaught, right? 2 wide receivers and J.K. Dobbins and Jalen Waddle on the other side. If that game sucks, like I'm not winning anything. So does Mac Jones and Tyquan really matter? Like
You got to finish first in 2 16-team tournaments first, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I would prioritize job security. I would just get me the guy who's going to be live for week 15 and 16 first.
Mhm.
Just that's what you need him for, and to help you advance, cover a bye week, help you advance out of the regular season. But then,
right,
yeah, you're not using him in week 17, but you might use him in week 15 or 16.
right.
Eric, I'd be curious, like if you just looked at the ADPs from like 190 with your weekly projections and beyond that, just who's going to hit your lineup more? Because my guess would be the tight ends and the quarterbacks. Because now we're drafting
Definitely.
like legit, like the 4th and 5th string wide receivers. Like these guys, I mean, we're really trying to do it. Like I know Ritter's going to make my lineup a couple times maybe, and the tight ends, I think when I ran my projections last year, I remember the tight ends were literally just projecting better straight up than the wide receivers at that point in the draft. So I'm always trying to save my bullets for those 2 positions last.
Yeah, I think
haven't
the late tight ends are nice.
I haven't gone through that all the way, but just as an example, so like Hunter Henry is like not even drafted in every single draft, and he projects as the tight end 20 for me. Like overall, like we're talking about like he's like a mid-round tight end, and he doesn't get drafted.
He tied for the team lead in red zone targets last year.
He's
too.
good.
Yeah.
He's the
like
second
a good
highest
football
paid tight end in the league. This year, second highest in the league.
That's why I end up with so much of him, and it feels
I
bad
know.
every
I
time.
need to
But he's
draft
there.
more of them, and
He's
I'm already
there.
drafting a lot. You guys are talking me into more.
He's always there.
He's always there. Cade Otton is another guy where I'm like,
Yep.
they're going to be.
Have to be.
Talk about a team that's going to have time to throw to the tight end at the end of the game. And like Cameron Brate and Kyle Rudolph are gone.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that because I didn't realize it until like a week ago. So,
Yeah.
you know, that there's like really no one to challenge him there. I just took Jelani Woods to correlate. You can always do that.
Cade Otton made 6 starts without Cam Brate last year, and he ran around on 84% of dropbacks. Like he's basically an every down tight end.
That's
What's nice
pretty
about him
amazing.
is his competition is a bunch of young guys as well. It's my Luke Musgrave theorem this year is he has to, like, rookies don't perform well at tight end, but his competition is another rookie. So one of these guys is going to be on the field. So we could have like a Cade Otton type of season from Luke Musgrave for the entire year, but Luke Musgrave can actually move Cade Otton, not necessarily his strengths.
But
Hey, you don't
that,
move if you're
Otton-
sitting wide open down
Yes.
28 points, okay?
Yep. No, I
Doesn't
agree.
matter if you move.
I agree. I've been drafting some Cade Otton.
Otton is a good example of what Hayden said, though, where like when you get to the later rounds, so like total player pool, like including quarterbacks, I think I have 330 players in the projections. Cade Otton is 189 overall, like total points, like not like per position, there's no adjustments. He projects for less than 5, but 4.6 points per week. It's the same as Mecole Hardman. It's the same as Khalil Shakir. It's almost the same as Tyler Algier. It's the same as, it's more than Wandale. It's more than like these other guys that are these positions that we would think are better. But all this stuff has evolved so much that now late round tight end like can have more viability than we think. And not just like punting tight end, but the late round tight ends can be better than the other positions sometimes.
Yeah, it's why it's so difficult for me to like select a rookie tight end like Michael Mayer, Talon Kincaid. When you got these guys at the end of the draft that can put up safer numbers for you to help you with your advance rate than getting these crazy like rookie tight ends that are famously known to not produce in their rookie season ever. So
I mean,
go ahead, Kid.
That's kind of what's happening with Dawson Knox too. Like he's feeling the direct effect of Dalton Kincaid going up. And as sexy as I think Dalton Kincaid is for fantasy, like Knox has the second most end zone targets among all tight ends the last 2 years. Like where he earns targets is what matters for those 16th, 17th round picks. And he's right there for you. So I just keep getting sucked up into these options.
Dalton Kincaid is just a slot receiver is really good news for Dawson Knox.
Agreed.
Because that means Dawson Knox actually plays tight end. I think the Kincaid ADP is bananas. Like
I agree.
It's insane.
The part-time slot receiver for the Bill. I mean, they have other guys that can play in the slot. They're also interested in signing Hopkins. Like if they might not have that many snaps for this guy. And he's like, I think he's a good tight end prospect, but like a good tight end prospect is not necessarily a good slot wide receiver prospect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think we're doing a lot of projection with Kincaid. He's like been like 3 rounds overpriced for like a while, I think.
Yeah, Jarvis Landry too. He could be picked up in an instant by Buffalo and get slotted right in there.
Yep.
Or Hunter Renfrow. Whatever
That's what I was going to say. In before Hunter Renfrow gets traded there.
Man, that would be nice.
Perfect sense.
It really does. That makes a lot of sense.
I gotta up the Renfrow exposure now. That just made it move.
Honestly,
that made it move over here.
Because Renfro's good. Renfro can play.
He is good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He doesn't do everything.
That's what they want in their slot receivers. Is the white slot receivers got to be able to rap.
All right, let's go down. Let's go down the list before we get out of here. Chris, go ahead and start with your draft and what happened.
Yeah, I ended up taking the lead quarterback Josh Allen and getting 17th round Brock Purdy, which feels pretty good. Now that he's already started to throw again. My running back crew is Ramondre, James Cook, with correlation with Josh, Elijah Mitchell, the number 1 backup in the league for Christian McCaffrey. Probably still going to get a couple touchdowns in the end zone. Roshan, rookie upside. Jeff Wilson, cheapest running back on the Miami offense. It should be pretty good. And wide receiver alpha Jamar Chase, Terry McLaurin to correlate with my San Francisco. Deontay, just a good target hog. Gabe Davis for my number 1 passing option to Josh Allen since I missed out on Diggs. Juju for the run back in week 17. Rookie upside Mingo, Chark, because I was trying to go for Bryce Young, but got sniped. Khalil Shakir, and Devontae Parker. Mindful, I wanted to touch on this. Parker is still playing for the Patriots, and he never gets picked.
Yep.
Like he's a big option in the red zone that's going to be pretty good. And then tight end to round it off, George Kittle, elite tight end with Dawson Knox in the 15th, 14th round or whatever. So.
No, Bond 4 up next.
This is about as typical as it gets of a draft for me, pushing a little bit of zero RB, but this is actually a good like example of why I really like an air quotes zero RB team like J.K. Dobbins, like fully healthy, no ACL concerns. Like we were taking him like at this spot or higher for parts of last year.
Yeah.
When we knew he might like we didn't know how much he was even going to play, and now we can get him right in the late 50s or 60s, and then just filling out a zero RB room with the kind of guys that I like: Rashad Penny, Damian Harris, Jerick McKinnon, etc. Early. I will say, I mean, I like AJ Brown, but like, God, I just despise the late first round pick relative to the early first round pick. Just everything about it is worse, but just built out kind of a running back. I didn't have much Mike Williams really like at all. And so this was one of those where I just kind of, that's a guy I haven't been taking in that fourth round relative to some of the other guys. So we dipped in there and then obviously stacked up the Ravens, and we talked about the Mac Jones and Tyquan thing. But something that I'm trying to do a little bit is some of this Chiefs wide receiver roulette and pray to God that that Nuke doesn't sign there and he goes somewhere else. But I actually don't know that Richie James in particular is impacted by a Nuke signing if he's just going to play the slot anyway. And then I think Rice is going to fall a little bit while people are worried about Nuke. So I'm just kind of trying to play that game a little bit, and then when he signs, I'll burn this team, and we'll be done with it. But
Richie can still dig out if he.
Richie will be fine.
You're not going to play him in the slot, right?
Nuke's not going to play the slot. MBS not going to play the slot. So I'm not worried about it. It's Richie versus Sky. Pat and I talked about this, and this is where I've really landed. Is like it's Richie James versus Sky Moore for slot snaps, and like. What has Sky shown to deserve that he should be this much higher than like Richie James has been better than him, and Richie James is also a better return man, which they tried to make Sky last year and he was terrible at it. Like I don't know. I'm just trying to get some Richie James now before we get to camp, and they're like Richie James is running with the ones, and the next thing you know, him and like Sky flip ADPs,
which could totally happen.
Kerrane.
All right. Bijan Robinson fell to the 11th pick, so I got a nice little value there. Filled out the running back room with Travis Etienne, who I got at a minor value, but then Kenneth Walker at a really nice value at the very end of the 5th round. I tacked on Deuce Vaughn at the end as my 4th running back, correlated with Brandon Cooks, and I just figure like coming out of OTAs, it seems like he has like a legit role, should make the team. His dad's not going to let him get cut, So just a nice little single there for Deuce Vaughn. Anthony Richardson and Geno Smith at quarterback. Got them both correlated. Geno Smith with Kenneth Walker and Tyler Lockett. Anthony Richardson actually kind of overstacked, right? Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, and Jelani Woods. The rest of my wide receivers, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, Tyler Lockett, Brandon Cooks. Felt like I was a little weak there with my top 4, so I kept on drafting Nico Collins, Alec Pierce, Marvin Mims, Rondale Moore, and Josh Downs to get to 9. David Njoku, Tyler Conklin, and Jelani Woods at tight end. Did kind of the too late tight end thing. Wanted to do it with Michael Mayer for the bring back on the Colts stuff, but instead got Conklin after I sniped there, and then got Woods. I kind of like the overstacking thing with like the cheap stuff. I feel like some people might go, oh, there's no way Anthony Richardson throws for, touchdowns to all these guys. But like, hey, here's what I know is going to happen. Okay. Anthony Richardson is going to go off in week 17 because that's how I win all the money. He's throwing touchdowns to someone, and I'm scratching off. Oh crap. It wasn't Alec Pierce. Oh, it must be Josh Downs then. Maybe it was Jelani Woods. I want that stacking partner when he goes off. Obviously it can't be Pittman or I'm not going to get them, but I think like, missing is okay a little bit, right? So if I know Richardson is popping off, I want to make sure I've got the guy that goes with it.
And the gains are so outsized if he's just really good, right? Like if he's really good for the whole season, they throw more. Like now you have all these guys who we would draft much higher if we knew, but we don't know, and we don't think they're going to throw a lot or he's going to be good or whatever.
Yeah, the game's in the dome too. It's going to be a great game.
I haven't been smart enough to do it, but there's something to like if the offense is good, not all of them are going to pay off each week, but if the offense is good and one doesn't perform, there's an increased likelihood that the other one is going to hit your lineup. So like there's kind of this like back and forth thing. Like obviously there's correlated together, but if like T Higgins scores 0 points, like the odds that Jamar Chase has 20 points are certainly higher to me. In the inverse.
Yeah, negative
that
correlation can
like
be good over a multi-week sample.
Mm-hmm.
Happened
2 years ago. 2 years ago. Yeah, week 16 T Higgins, week 17 Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here as well, since we have a meeting of the minds, I want to start with you, Kerrane, and ask, it doesn't have to necessarily be your biggest edge, but what do you find yourself doing or falling back on most in drafts at this time of the year? Because it's what draft rooms are allowing you to do.
Yeah, so I'm not really going zero running back very much right now, which is surprising to me. I normally like going zero running back a fair amount. I actually do it more on DraftKings where the ADP is kind of looser. Mm-hmm. But here I'm getting these values in the third round at the running back position. I like, some of the guys a little bit later as well, but especially Breece Hall to me. I'm like, if there's one guy who could be like quite a bit higher than this and quite a bit lower, it's Breece Hall. And I'm just like, Breece Hall, I think, had an incredible year last year, like an underrated year maybe in terms of just how good he was. Clean ACL tear, basically. I think he had minor meniscus damage, but they're not even sure if that was repaired. So he apparently, the Jets say he hit 22 miles an hour. People are acting like the latest report is bad because they're like, oh, I don't know if he's ready for week 1. Yeah, I don't know either. I don't care. It's an end of the season bet. I'm getting him in the third round. Alvin Kamara was going at the end of the third round last year when we thought he might be suspended for 6 games. We might miss like 1-2 games with Breece Hall. And if he gets back to the player that he was last year with Aaron Rodgers taking the offense up a level, I just think he could be an absolute smash. So he's the guy that I'm prioritizing him in the third round, even with other backs that I like there. And it's creating me to build like essentially like hero running back teams, but with Breece Hall in the third, which is not something that I've ever done before.
22 miles per hour is insane too. Like his top speed last year in a single play was 21.8 miles per hour. So to already reportedly at least be back at full health, that's pretty crazy. Bomb forward.
He's
what
not
about
cutting
you?
and stuff yet, but I mean, it's a good sign, I think.
Yeah.
My somewhat counter to what Kerrane is saying is if someone even like Kerrane, and I've watched some of like Pete Overzet stuff and anybody who is what the industry would call a zero RB zealot, right? Still cannot pull themselves away from some of the early running backs. So
Davis Maddock is touting Derrick Henry as the key to the season.
Exactly. People weren't interested in Derrick Henry. Then the schedule came out, and now they're drafting him. And so I'm actually going kind of the other way because I do love Mixon, and I like Cam Akers. I mean, I have never liked David Montgomery, but I like David Montgomery this year. And you can tell yourselves a story on like so many of these guys. And I really love, like we talked about before, that pocket of like Penny, Harris, Gibson. You move it up a little bit to A-Chain and P-Ryan. And like, there's just so many guys there that I love. And I know that my opponents are even less willing when the zero RB bros, given the wide receiver ADP, they just still can't draft the zero RB teams. I'm kind of leaning into that a little bit more than I have before, in particular, because I have a couple pockets of the draft where I just like love those running backs. And I love the second and third round running backs too. Breece is a guy I am trying to do kind of what Kerrane said. Like make these hero RB teams with like a mid to late round Breece feels really good because you can kind of have your cake and eat it too with that, right? You can have wide receiver, and then Breece, and that can make a lot of sense too. But I'm just trying to
get a P-Ryan too, and you get maybe like you get the early season, then maybe P-Ryan's more than we think, and yeah.
And so, but just like that kind of, I'm trying to be thoughtful about what the landscape really is right now. And so like the Brees thing is a good example where Pat is still like wearing his 0 RB hat, but like not fully. And so I'm just trying to balance those things because I think this is a landscape we have never seen before, dude. This is like second round quarterbacks and like T Higgins in the second round. Like this is crazy, man. Like this is absolutely crazy. So I'm trying to just really think about what the landscape is and how do I kind of manipulate that.
What about for you, Chris?
Yeah, honestly, I think my biggest edge in this BBM draft is just strong takes, loosely held. Let the draft come to you. Just relax. You're going to be able to dictate whatever you want. You can get whatever style of you want. I'm very flexible. I think that's what makes me so good at drafting. Is I can jump into a 0 RB team and just go full 6 to 7 wide receivers in a row, and I think I'm able to recover. And usually those end up 2-7-7-2 builds, but you just got to take what the room gives you. Like if you look in this draft, like I thought for sure I was going, I'm going to go running back here, and the second and third round, and then 4 running backs just go off the board right before me, and Devonta Smith goes, and I'm like, if T Higgins falls to the third, I'll take him. If not, I'll adjust, and that's what I did. So I think that's just a really key component to a lot of guys when they draft is they need to just relax. You're not going to get every stack you want, and you just got to adapt and adjust to it.
Hayden, you're obviously not allowed to draft, but what are you seeing from draft boards right now that you still think is an edge everyone can exploit?
Oh, I'm 40 drafts deep over here against these employees.
yeah.
We got so many damn engineers right now. But yeah, so the thing with me, to me, it's like the table stakes right now is you have to have at least 4 decent wide receivers. Do you need more than that? I think that's going to be the thing that we're going to learn after we see how this season plays through once we have the ADPs, but table stakes are 4 wide receivers.
We need more than that. We might need to adjust some settings on this because I don't know.
I'll talk to some of these engineers that
change
I'm
the
bullying.
sliders. Yeah,
How about no PPR at this point?
Yeah, right. But at the same time, the running back prices to me are just so juicy. So that's leaving me with basically I'm not drafting a single one of the elite tight ends. Like it's scary to me because they can definitely have the George Kittle and my teams will not be able to compete with them most likely. But if I know I have to have good wide receivers and I love the running back prices and I'm trying to correlate these good wide receivers with their good quarterbacks, then one position's got to go. And for me right now, that's just been the tight ends. It could easily cost me later on, but I'm just going to roll the dice that Travis Kelce misses a couple weeks. Mark Andrews has an okay season. George Kittle and Waller show their signs of decline, and then I just kind of coast from there. But I'm not going to be bad at wide receiver, and I think the running back price is the best on the board right now.
Can I just ask also, because like the counter to that is what about late round quarterback? So like instead of like you said doing the making sure you're getting those premium stacks and stuff is like, let's do the Mac Jones, Desmond Ridder, right? All those kind of guys. Have you thought about the comparison between the two as instead, like not necessarily punting quarterback? You know, you could still get Geno, Daniel Jones, whatever, but like those quarterbacks from round 10 on, and still being able to dip your toes into the elite tight end. Have you thought about like kind of the between those two?
Yeah, when I ran the numbers on it, I saw that the elite quarterbacks have occupied more of the spike weeks than the elite tight ends do. And I just go back to like who's scoring more points, and I'm just going to bank. I want the quarterbacks. And when I'm thinking about it, I want to like pick the right offenses in general for the stacking. And that's so quarterback driven. And I'll add on the correlation of his shitty tight end rather than like trying to find the elite tight end and then stack on his shitty quarterback, because if I'm going to be stacking the offenses, I want to like get some decent wide receivers too. So I'm going to like dictate like the good offenses, try to stack from there. And usually that means the quarterback versus the tight end. And I need to write this up, but I think that quarterbacks can separate on a 1 week sample and over the course of the season. I think that especially in half PPR, like the DraftKings format with the bonuses and the PPR and all that stuff, it's a little bit harder to do. But I think that the quarterbacks probably separate a little bit more based on the math than what's kind of is the narrative. So I have to write that up and make sure, but that's kind of where I'm at right now.
The rushers for sure, right? A ceiling Hurts game can have, is 40 something, which definitely can separate. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of on the other side of that because I did an article last year on kind of the separation thing. And I used FanDuel scoring. So it was, same scoring. and it did show that quarterbacks separate the least. Obviously, they can still separate, but I think what's going on now is that the quarterbacks are priced up substantially, and the tight ends. And Hayden, you tweeted
Fair
out
price,
a really good chart on this. They're all down. They're all outside of Kelsey. They're way down in price. And I think it's sort of counterintuitive, but if you're taking like a portfolio approach where you've got you're overweight on all these elite tight ends, which I am right now. The fact that like Kyle Pitts is going to totally bust and Dallas Goedert's going to disappear for the playoffs, those are like, that's part of the reason to do it. Because then if you land on like Mark Andrews, let's say, or George Kittle or TJ Hawkinson, if you've got the guy, it's the fact that all these other dudes are going to do nothing is like part of the appeal. It's that when you get that spike week, it powers you through the playoff weeks in a way that like another position isn't going to do it quite as easily. Like, yes, it would be better to like hit on like a late round wide receiver spike week out of nowhere that goes off, but like it's going to be kind of harder to do.
Yes.
At tight end, you do have a consistent pattern where we are at least identifying the guys who can produce multiple weeks of spike weeks we're pretty good at it. And I think we're pretty good at it because like these are like literally different human beings. Like it is hard to block a defensive end and run routes like a wide receiver. Like there's like 5 dudes on earth who can do it. We're pretty good at figuring out which 5 dudes. And so I want to be overweight on the strategy as a whole, especially in Best Ball Mania, where I have to finish first out of 441 teams. I have to finish first out of 16 in 2 weeks. Like I'm basically expected to advance one team every 10 years based on these advance rates as a 150 max drafter. Like I want to pull the lever that's like, this guy goes off at the right time. Like that gets me in. And then, obviously I need a million other things to go right for me as well. But in the smaller tournaments, I think it's less of a priority. In fact, maybe it's like not a priority. If you're not trying to do something really, really difficult just to get to the final and then take down a 400 plus team final. If it's a smaller field, then I think, you just go for more of the advance rate stuff, and elite tight end has not been a very good advance rate strategy.
Yeah, I think 18 rounds is also a something to toss in there too, in favor of the elite tight end. It's like, yes, I spent more on that position with that one individual player, but like when you have 20 rounds or anything else that has more than like, you have a lot of flexibility to like, dude, you want to take 4 tight ends on DraftKings, like go for it. All those guys, we just talked about how like Cade Otton projects better, right, than a bunch of these wide receivers. So when there's 20 rounds, you have a bunch of those bullets to cycle through, Hunter Henry and Cade Otton and Michael Mayer and all those guys. 18, I know it doesn't sound like a lot. It's only 2 less picks. It's a lot, man. Every pick really matters. And when all those guys are the same at the end, you play this 2v2 game and you're like, I don't know, man, the ceiling of that George Kittle game and the ceiling of whatever late round running back I can get really is a lot more impactful than Cade Otton. Like, I'm not trying to shit on Cade Otton, but like Cade Otton versus whatever Mike Williams, it actually sides with the Kittle side of things a lot of the times from a ceiling perspective.
To me, it's the hardest thing right now because I love historical data. I think there is use cases for it. With tight end, it's so difficult because all of the historical data over like the last 10 years, it's like prime Gronk, prime Travis Kelce. It's like literally the best tight end performances we've ever had. Is this class of tight ends actually replicated of like prime Gronk with Tom Brady, Travis Kelce with Patrick Mahomes, or are we kind of graduating on and where some of this is a little bit less sticky? And it's just a small sample size with these guys. Like with quarterbacks, there's going to be 6 or 7 of the elite ones every single year. The running backs and wide receivers are always going to be good ones no matter what. With the tight end, all it takes is just 2 guys to go away and everything else kind of goes up. Does that make the other elite guy that's by himself better, or does that make all of the late round tight ends that much better? I have no idea. So that's kind of the risk I'm taking.
I think I'm maybe more I think Andrews is firmly one of those guys. I think he's firmly an elite tight end in the NFL. And I think Pitts, honestly, I know we're all hurt. I know we're still recovering, but like he had 1,000 yards as a rookie and he was an elite tight end prospect. And like they didn't throw and he had to deal with Mariota. Like I don't know. I guess I think that the tight end landscape's kind of what it always has been. It's like because we always like felt like, it's Gronk, it's whoever, and then it's like kind of random, right? It's all, but there would be guys who hit, and like Kittle wasn't supposed to be Kittle, Waller wasn't supposed to be Waller, So I don't know. I think there's merit to both strategies because the late round, as we talked about, like especially right now, like I don't know who I should be taking as the Rams RB2. Is it Zach Evans? Is it Kyron Williams? There's a million situations like that where I'm literally just flipping a coin, but I'm pretty sure Kate Otton's going to run a bunch of routes. I'm pretty sure Hunter Henry's going to run a bunch of routes and is good. So I think that like taking those guys and building your draft around those guys is totally fine, and is actually something I'm doing. But I also want to be overweight the elites because if anyone's going to have a multi-week playoff stretch, it's probably one of those guys.
Yeah.
So
And
if I'm overweight on all of them, it gives me a good shot at it.
When I do go with them, it's Andrews and Pitts. Those are the two that I like their upside at their cost versus the other ones. So
those are my two favorite. Although Goddard goes so late now, I'm pretty overweight Goddard as well.
I have Goddard ranked over Pitts in my opinion, just for me, and I like Hawkinson a lot too. I mean, the Atlanta team I'm just so over it from last year. The amount of pass attempts, great talent, but what have they shown us? They've already shown us what they want to do. They drafted the number one running back prospect in a long time. They're going to run the shit out of the ball. Hopefully, the offense is going to be hopefully a lot better, and there are going to be more attempts in the red zone. But I don't think we're going to see a 1,000-yard season from Kyle Pitts. Like I'd rather go with Hawkinson. Like he performed so well at the end of the season, and he had that great playoff game as well. And I just think Goddard is in a top-tier offense as well. So when I have a choice between Pitts and Goddard, I'm always taking Goddard, and that's why I'm very low on Pitts right now.
The problem for Goddard for me is that he's fine, but he never really is going to project like a slate breaker unless something happens to AJ Brown or Devonta Smith, which is a legitimate thing. And like we saw 2 years ago, right when they made the playoffs before they had AJ Brown, that he was a monster. He had the highest target share of any tight end in the league, besides Mark Andrews down that stretch. But then they brought in AJ Brown, and like he was fine, he's good, and he deserves to be drafted. I'm drafting him as well, but like he's more of he is. This is going to sound terrible. I don't mean it like this, but like remember when we bumped up Tyler Higbee? Because like he had a nice hot stretch and like he feels really cozy, so he goes in the 8th round. Goddard isn't that. Goddard's also better than Higbee.
I think he's a lot
but
better
like
than Higbee.
yeah, he's a much better real life football player. But you know what I mean? Like he doesn't really earn that many targets. He doesn't really like he's the third option. He's not an awesome red zone option. Like Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown are more red zone options than him. And now they have Rashad Penny. It's like I don't dislike him, and there are outs to him being a smash, and he's really good at the game. So like that's not a guy that I'm fading, but it's like it's a tight needle to thread for Dallas Goedert to like break to like be the guy you need. You know,
you're betting on Goddard and the Eagles passing game because of the extra volume we are assuming they'll have just from last year playing the league's easiest schedule and them thus running a league low or trailing for a league low in second half plays, and Jalen Hurts only averaging 11 second half attempts per game compared to 19.5 first half attempts because they were just beating their opponents down and thus not answering in the second half. That's why you're going back to Goddard.
They pulled their starters in like the third quarter against the Steelers.
Yeah.
And as opposed to the league's easiest schedule last year, they're currently projected for the 16th schedule overall. So at least more competition. That's why you keep going back to all these Philadelphia pass catchers.
My problem with Goddard is if I'm drafting him as a one-off, if I don't have Jalen Hurts, you better have an elite quarterback, because if Dallas Goedert's the guy that you need in week 17, Jalen Hurts has a 45 burger in your face. So if you're
that's a good point
with Mac Jones and Daniel Jones, you're so effed. So like to me, it's like a very weird build for me to kind of fit him.
They're also
I take
all
Pitts over Goddard, and that's a good reason.
They're also they're all getting pulled in week 17 against Arizona in the second quarter, so it doesn't matter.
Same thing as last year. Eagles are the team you need all year, and then in the playoffs they do absolutely nothing. But also the problem is exactly what you said with Goddard, that it's not that easy to get AJ Brown right without reaching. AJ Brown, Hurts, or Devonta and Hurts is like you can make it happen, and it's not going to be like low owned. But Goddard is like that backstop. Right? If you draft Hurts, like maybe Hurts falls to you in the third, you draft him. Like Goddard is the guy who is the most popular stacking partner with Jalen Hurts. So it's like it's this total mind.
You're probably right. He is the most popular, but that actually, I mean, it is It is possible. I mean, tight end's such a low scoring position. It's totally possible that Goddard scores 2 touchdowns, and
For sure.
that's great for Hurts, but like I can probably cover that off with someone else.
It would make
Yeah,
me
but
nervous.
again,
Same thing with Mark Andrews.
It definitely makes me nervous. It definitely makes me nervous.
It's
Yeah.
threading that you're threading that needle. That's like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
we're really, it's like when people say, I'll draft the back, I'll handcuff Christian McCaffrey because if he misses week 14, 15, and 16 and comes back in week 17, it's like, dude, like that is a really
play
tight
this all
needle to
day.
thread.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get what you guys are saying about Pitts over Goddard, but usually in that range, if I don't have Jalen Hurts, I'm probably waiting on tight end a little bit longer as well. So if I see Pitts there, I'm probably more than likely passing at this point in time. I'll wait a little bit
Chris is
later.
completely out on Kyle Pitts, is what he's saying. He's just
Yes, I'm completely out right now. I'm a hater right now. He burned me so bad last year. I'm just like,
Chris is
forget it.
not recovered. He's not ready for another
I'm
round.
not.
I am.
You're not a Martingale. You're not a Martingale fan, huh? I guess.
I need to combine the underdog data to see of the people that had Kyle Pitts last year at a high
Please do
rate,
this.
what percent did they draft him the next year? If it's the
Please
exact
do this,
opposite
dude.
side,
Dude.
that data
Hayden,
doesn't exist for me. But
Hayden, I will be the
gold.
number one person in the differential. I have
Please
the
remove-
most Kyle Pitts of anybody.
Hayden, that would be like
So hilarious.
legitimate human research. Like that
Yeah.
that's quantifying like
Yeah.
a psychological effect that we know exists in fantasy football. It would be
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, I'll try.
Nobel
Yeah,
Peace
like
Prize.
50 of the
You're
big
going to win the
ones.
Nobel
Honestly,
Peace
First
Prize.
one.
My nomination for the Nobel Prize. I don't have a nomination.
Mark Andrews also averaged 11.8 points per game in his 11 full starts with Lamar Jackson last year. Would have been second tight end. Kerrane, plug
All
your
right.
shit and let's get out of here.
Legendary Upside, you can get $30 off your first year at legendaryupside.com/early. We got a partnership with Underdog that gets you a $50 credit. There's information on the site. You got to fill out a form so that I have your username so I can send that over to Underdog. You get a $50 credit to your account. I only have a limited amount of those, so if you want one of those, you got to sign up quickly at legendaryupside.com/early. Also have a partnership with Spike Week. Got all the friends on the stream today. You can get 40% off a Spike Week subscription with promo code LEGUP if you are subscribed to Legendary Upside.
I am a subscriber. I suggest everyone else become one. Eric Beimfor of Spike Week. Tell everyone what y'all have going on over there with the new tools.
Tons of stuff. Pat mentioned it. You can get a nice 40% off if you are a Leg Up subscriber. And my favorite thing is we've really kind of like fine-tuned the tools this year for all us crazy sick, I mean, it's not even June, guys, and we're like hotly debating, all of this fantasy football stuff. But the Underdog and the best ball space has just blown up like crazy. And we try to build tools that if you're really into best ball, this is what you want to use. We are best ball players building tools for best ball players. So it's funny because I hopped on the stream with no intention to do so, and I was literally recording a video of like, here's how you use our overlays during this. So people can check that out. Just building best ball tools for best ball players, underdog players. Underdog people are absolutely the perfect. So just check out spikeweek.com, of course, the YouTube channel and Twitter, all that fun stuff.
Chris, outside of being a weekly third basically for us on this show every single week, what else do you have coming out on the site lately?
Yeah, listen, I'm here at Twitter at Chris G. I'm a writer for 444. I'm probably going to have something in the hopper sooner than later, so you'll see it. I do a little more typically during the best ball playoffs in the NFL. So.
And Hayden, what do you have out at Underdog right now?
We have your stream just went up. Ask Daigle who's top 5 guys are. Lots of content from me. I'm gonna get, since Josh is gone, I'm gonna do some really niche best ball conversations while I don't have to deal with his bullshit. And just wanted to. This was a very sick stream for me. Underdog, we provide the tournaments, but we got great content out there. Tools, I do believe, is going to be the next big wave. So excited for all of that. So fun stuff. Learned a lot from you guys.
Best ball tiers, as we talked about, up on the site right now for everyone if you want to check that out. So until then, thanks to everyone for this chaotic show. Goodbye from Drew Davenport. And remember, be a little bit kinder than what's required. We'll see you next time.